Welcome back to another episode of Unstoppable Agent. I'm your host, Brian White. I am a local North Texas real estate agent, associate broker, and team leader with EXP Realty.
It was so easy to learn what I needed to learn to be successful where I wanted to be successful. And then past that, all the training that was offered to me just as a team lead to help me be a better team leader, specific to being a leader to other agents and how to educate them. Gosh, I don't know. There's too many things to name. I don't even think we could cover it in our short time together, how many resources there are available to us as agents.
And Unstoppable Agents is all about helping agents, team leaders, and brokers build an unstoppable business, build unstoppable wealth, and build an unstoppable legacy for today and really for future generations. The show, we get to interview some amazing icon agents. Icons at EXP are the top 2% of real estate agents. We've got more than 86,000 agents at EXP. Hitting icon really is something of significance. It's a big deal. And because we're such a collaborative company, folks love giving back and sharing their expertise, sharing their success, and really what's helped them get there and be successful. I'm excited today because I've got Stephen Schott from Gerardo, Missouri. Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Stephen, welcome to the show today.
Yeah, it's nice to have you, Brian. I'm excited.
Yeah, so welcome. We just got to start. I got to start by celebrating you. You haven't even been at EXP for a year, and you've already earned. You've already got that trophy, earned the Icon Award. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
We were talking before the show, and you're not new to real estate. So my guess is you've won some awards in some other places. EXP's award comes with a little bit of cash. How much money did you get for your awards at previous brokerages?
You know what? I come from a small boutique brokerage. We, for my first 3 years with my license, this is my 4th year with my license. First year with my license, we were the top performing team in all of Southeast Missouri for 3 years. And it did come with some bonuses, but not anything. I didn't get my whole cap back. I can tell you that.
That's awesome. That is one of the biggest benefits, right? Is you get a whole lot of stock and money that pays you not just today, but hopefully for many years in the future as we see that grows and the company grows. So Steve, tell us about you. So you have been licensed for a bit, so tell us your story, why you got started in this crazy real estate business, and then how you got
I started when I was 18. I've been investing in real estate for a little over a decade now. I'm 29.
Okay.
Started when I was 18. I bought my first house, and I had no idea what I was doing. But I had money saved up from high school. I worked at McDonald's and an orchard for a long time. I had some insurance money from a car accident I was in, and I had no idea what to do with it. But my dad, he'd swung a hammer his whole life. He'd been still one of the greatest carpenters I know. And him and my mom were like, you should buy a house so you don't have to pay rent to somebody. I'm like, that's a great idea. And at the time, it sounded awesome. And I didn't fully realize how much work that actually took. So I bought my first house, and over the course of about 3 years, I turned it into a duplex on accident. I lived in the basement while I worked on the upstairs, finished the basement. It was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, the kitchen, a laundry, and then moved upstairs after I was finished with the upstairs. And I was like, I have this whole basement. I don't know what to do with it. And a good mentor, he's now a mentor, a good friend of mine, as a family friend of ours. His name's Joe Azzaro. He owns one of the largest groups of real estate here in the area. He said, just rent it out to your fraternity brothers. And I was like, that's a great idea. So I rented that out for about $600 a month. My mortgage with utilities was about $600. So I lived there for free all through college. And then when I moved out, I bought another house. I moved out, I started renting the whole thing. And I was like, you could really start making some money doing this, because I rented the whole thing for $1,200. And then
that house hacking, nailed it. That's the classic way to get in and get started. So good for you.
Absolutely. And it was before I even knew what the bigger pockets community was, what house hacking was, I was because it just made sense, and that was a logical next step to go. But then, to make a long story short, I partnered with a fraternity brother of mine. We invested in a lot of properties here in the area over the course of about 6 years. We sold that whole portfolio together about 2 or 3 years ago, and have used those funds to invest in some bigger pieces of real estate. In selling it, I was like, why don't I have my real estate license? A good friend of mine ran one of the fastest growing brokerages here in the area, and he convinced me to get my license. And I said, I'm only going to get my license if I'm on your team. And he said, no doubt. And then 4 years later, here we are. I've learned how to sell real estate and invest, and have loved to help clients do the same.
That's awesome. It's amazing how many people start with investing. I did. So I started as an investor in previous career and just became fascinated with it. And then now I've been able to move on and help others. But I started in my 40s and investing. You started when you were 18. Good for you. That's awesome. Fantastic start. So what brought you to EXP? So you did all that, and sounds like you built up a successful career. So talk about the transition. What caused you to make the move?
Well, at some point, our team was going to end at my previous brokerage, and that was fine because I could go off and start my own team. And then a friend of mine here in town introduced me to a man named Pat Hayes, and Pat is my sponsor into EXP.
Yep.
And Pat, after a few phone calls with him and I, just those people you just get along with really easily. And do you guys know Pat?
I do. I was wondering how you got connected with the San Antonio guy, but it's a long way from southeastern Missouri.
It was funny. It's funny how God puts the right people in your life to help you make the right decisions. And a person that I met here in town was from San Antonio, and it was just a small world. But Pat eventually showed me what it was like to be a team lead with EXP opposed to other brokerages. And I had to make the best decision for me and for the people that I knew I was going to bring onto my team. And it only made sense to move to EXP for that.
That's awesome and brilliant. Congratulations on making that move. And since you've been here for about a year, what's your experience been?
At first, I was very intimidated. I was afraid that I wasn't going to have access to the broker team like I do face to face. That was immediately remedied by how easily it is to get in touch with my designated broker and the whole team, either through EXP World or on the phone. So I can text my designated, he's got 1,800 agents under him, and I can text him anytime he's going to reply, which I find phenomenal. So that was one fear that I had, and that fear was vanquished pretty quickly through my experience with EXP. And then the rest of it, just having access to the university, to the Cardone training, to all that other stuff, if you take advantage of it. I know not everybody does, but when you really delve deep into the TrackStar modules and using those with your team, which I just started doing, and the rest of the EXP University stuff, it was so easy to learn what I needed to learn to be successful where I wanted to be successful. And then past that, all the training that was offered to me just as a team lead to help me be a better team leader, specific to being a leader to other agents and how to educate them. Gosh, I don't know. There's too many things to name. Like, I don't even think we could cover it in our short time together, how many resources there are available to us as agents.
That's awesome. And that's one of the things that I think a lot of people miss is we talk about EXP's training being great, but it's great for team leaders as well. Right, there are so many resources that were designed for individuals, and team leaders can direct their teams. So there's no reason to roll your own. It's already created. It's already there for you, and it's already shareable and virtual and recorded. And we've got 80 hours a week plus of live training, and that doesn't even count all the stuff that then gets recorded and becomes part of a library that you can use for days, weeks, and months to come. The opportunity is just so scalable and so limitless that's a lot of fun.
Yeah. We've had just some of the connections that you can make through those trainings has almost changed my business. It's been great.
So let's talk about your production for a second. And you shared with me, so you come from an investing background, and you shared with me some things that you do that are maybe outside of the traditional real estate space. Could you talk a little bit more about that and some of the things that you do on the portfolio side and how that came about?
Yeah, so I think this was the first I felt like a real Mark Cuban in this incident, just by identifying a real need in the market and being able to provide a direct solution to it, or I guess indirect solution to it. I wanted to move more into commercial real estate because those are things that interest me, the value add prospect of multifamily and portfolios, and then how to create real generational wealth will come through multifamily storage and triple net. That interested me a lot, but I didn't want to give up the residential piece of it because that was still a large chunk of my paycheck too.
Sure.
So this whole year, what we've been able to do, what I've been working up my entire career, was I noticed that there are individuals, older individuals who are looking to get out of the rental space or get into more stable investments that have these large scattered site, single family, class C and D portfolios across smaller markets around here and even in the St. Louis area, who have 180 single family homes that they've bought over 60 years. How do you sell that? And that is tough because now people have so many options to say, why would I buy a 180 single family scattered site portfolio that requires way more maintenance? It may get higher rents per door, but the amount of the logistics and the amount of repairs far exceeds what I want to get into. when instead, I could buy 150 multifamily validated investment. So how do we bridge that gap between the people who can buy it and the people who want to sell it? I found that there's a lot of people who are my age and younger, guys who are just now 18, 20, 21, that are really much more intelligent than I was at that age, I'll tell you that. And those are guys that can afford to buy 2 or 3 at a time. Well, I have this team of realtors now that I've been training to be residential agents. I say, hey, why don't you bring them over into, hey, we've got 2 duplexes here. Live in one of them, rent out the other, or like we were talking, we were house hacking when I first started.
Yeah.
Why don't we teach them to do the same thing in a different way? So what we found is that we had 40 or 50 buyers that could each buy 1 or 2 or 3, and then we sold a whole 180 scattered site single family portfolio. And that's been a large portion of my client base. Right now, we have a 37 property portfolio listed in Sikeston, Missouri. And we've sold 6 or 7 of them so far. We've only been listed for 60 days, but we're slowly picking away at that portfolio, all the while having a strategy for what that guy should do with his money after he sells them all. And that's been a large part of my business so far.
That's terrific. Are you doing an for those and deferring the taxes, or like where do you help them go with that?
In some of them, yeah. The one that I'm working on currently, the portfolio that we're selling currently, every offer we get, there's 4 people that are going to be on that email that I immediately forward it to. That's the attorney handling the exchange. That's the closer at the title company. That's the banker that has to, a lot of these are cross-collateralized debt pieces. The banker that has to figure out what debt's paid off and when. And oh gosh, who's the 4th person? 4th person? I think it's another attorney, but so all of those people all of those people are included on that conversation, because as agents, it's not our job to exactly tell you the tax implications and everything, but it's our job to make sure that everybody has all the information they need to help the client do that. And I can tell that person, hey, here's what I know you can do with a 1031 based on the education I have, but I can't tell you how to do it. Here's the CPA that I think you should work with.
You did not stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night, so you were not able to provide that expertise. No, that's great. That's great. And it's good to have a team of experts, right? Even if you do know, and ultimately it's somebody else's job and you don't want the liability associated with it anyway. So you're better off bringing in the expert who can help there.
Yeah. Yep. And they've been included in the conversation when it takes convincing the seller that that's the best route to go as well. So we've had plenty of guys that are like, what makes me good money now? And I ask them, well, what's that estate transfer look like? Like, how does this get transferred to your kids? Are they going to get it and then sell it? Okay, then what does that tax implication look like for them? Well, what if you just had one triple net building in a trust? Does that help your generation continue that wealth as you go along? And that conversation usually turns out way better with a CPA and an attorney involved as well.
Yeah, it's good. So let's transition. I want to talk a little bit about your team and how have you structured that? So there's the traditional team structure. There are a variety of structures at EXP. So I'm just curious how you don't have to share details that you want to, but how have you laid that out? Have you laid your team out?
In EXP lingo, like we are a standard team.
Okay.
With one team leader, I get a split of the sales that my team makes, and I delegate and provide a lot of the overhead to them in return. I think my job as a team lead, most of the time, is to provide new business and to train. And we've brought on people who I feel can fill specific roles. For example, Jennifer Willett is on the team. She's a brand new agent, but she's not new to real estate. She worked for a private equity firm up in Chicago for a long time, and she was their asset manager. She managed thousands of doors remotely for 6 or 7 years, and she was phenomenal at it. She's taking over our property management side, which is separate from EXP. For anybody watching, EXP doesn't do property management, but I'm brokering the property management piece. Okay. I can trust that I can hand it over to Jen and she's got it. So bringing people onto your team that you trust are going to do what they're brought on to do is, I think, really important. Brought on Christian Worley. He started when he was 18. He's 21 now. This was 3 years ago. He started as a client of mine. When I moved to EXP, he got his license, joined the team, and he now acts as our transaction coordinator, and then on the side acts as a buyer's agent most of the time. So my team right now is 4 people on it, not including me, and they each kind of fill a specific role. Christian's transaction coordinator. Jennifer works really well with investors and managing the properties after the fact. Dusty Easton is great with buyers down south, like Sikeston, south of, like in the boonies of Missouri. He has a lot of connections down there. And Tran works up in St. Louis area, and he's got a huge network up there. So being able to
what I love that you've touched on is, let's just address a limiting belief, and that's that young people can't be successful. That young people can't go out and just make a ton of money, right? You've got an agent that started at 18, is doing some TC work, but also as a buyer's agent, right? You got people. Look, you're a young guy and have been in the business for a good while now. that's really a mindset, and there's a market that you have an opportunity to serve. And as long as you're the expert and you work hard, then nothing limits your success.
Absolutely. I think when I think of Christian, and I tell him this all the time, I'm like, if I had the head on my shoulders that you do, if I had that head when I was 18 that you do now, who knows where I would have been. But and then he'll in return say, I wouldn't be where I'm at if it wasn't for you, Stephen, pushing me to make the decisions that I did.
Sure.
So I think that is a limiting belief. You're absolutely right. And I've seen other agents who are older than I am who will maybe overlook or oversee the potential that a young guy like the potential that I had when I was younger. Luckily, I had an agent that was willing to take the risk with working with an 18-year-old and finding the right house. So I say, don't ignore those people. Those are going to be clients for life now.
And that really is a brilliant way so if you look at many subscription-related businesses, they look at the lifetime value of a client. And we in real estate should be looking at it the same way. Number one, we should be serving at a high level today. But if people move every 7 years, if you're in business for 20, that's at least 3 turns. And after the first one, each turn is 2 deals. So just one person can be 4, 5, 6. If you're like my wife and I, we've never been anywhere more than 5 years. So we've been married for 23 years and we've built 5 houses and lived in several others. So we're a realtor's dream. And so if we look at a lifetime value, we would be a 6-figure compensation person for a realtor. We had to fix that, but didn't get into the business ourselves. But that's a great way to look at it from a great perspective. I want to make sure this didn't get lost, but you primarily focus on commercial. I think when people think of EXP, rightfully, they think of a residential brokerage. The majority of our business is residential, but you're part of a thriving and massive and quickly growing business within EXP. Good job being on that early.
Yeah, I think like you said, most people think of EXP as a residential firm, but the commercial piece is growing quite a lot with EXP. Now, I don't exactly associate myself just as commercial agent.
Sure.
Because our team deals with, like I said, that combination of the two is figuring out how do we sell a big commercial portfolio on a residential scale. And we've just figured out how to do that. Now, on the other side of that, when we're looking at the 1031 or the funds that client has after they've sold that portfolio, what are we getting into now? That's my favorite part, is let's get into the underwriting on a 10-year IRR. What does the 5 to 7 year return look like? Or what does, I always say in commercial, you can accurately predict what 5 years is going to bring you. 10 years gets a little foggy. 15 and 20, you need a crystal ball. But if I can predict that you're going to make money over 5 years, then hopefully that next 5 years we can do the same thing. So that's my favorite part of real estate, is in the commercial side, we say, here's our NOI. How do we decrease expenses, increase rents, increase value add with other fees? What does that do to our new value based on the cap rate? That stuff we could talk for another hour about that, and I would be excited.
That's great. You could teach a master class on how to make that work. Stephen, you've been awesome. Thank you for joining me today. I'm thrilled with your success. I'm thrilled that you've joined EXP and you're seeing that continue and really you're now earning more money for doing exactly the same work that you were doing before. That's a way to multiply wealth over the long term. So any parting thoughts or things that you want to make sure we share with the audience?
Oh, I could say, can I have a plug?
Sure. Go for it.
Right now, we're working on a course that's going to allow new realtors and investors, and especially young investors, really understand how to make a portfolio grow in the most tax efficient and income producing way. That course will be available by the end of January this next year, and you'll be able to find it on my social media plastered all over the place.
So we will include your socials in the description, so anybody watching this will be able to find them, and we'll be able to track you down, because I'm sure that course is going to be valuable.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brian.
Hey, you're welcome. Stephen, thanks for joining me, and best of luck to you.
Hey, you too. Bye-bye.